4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It is lunchtime in Rome. Tonight is episode 161, entitled Attention. There's a negative connotation with attention, but why is that? What makes someone need attention? Why can they be so annoying when they don't get attention? We'll be talking about that at the table this evening. So pull up a chair at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or listen directly on lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you gave us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you are all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes or so of the podcast, but we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is lunchtime in Rome.
Hi, everybody.
What's up?
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, so if people who are watching live, you might see that Eric has more hair tonight.
Yep.
Or that means it's not Eric at all. It is my son, Ben, on the tech. Hey, Ben.
Hi, everyone.
And we would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Yeah, Ben is just sitting in for Eric tonight because he has some other obligations, and thankfully Ben is a little bit tech savvy, and so he is not the guest. This is not one of those where it's like, oh, hey, this is the Ben Davidson episode, but
Ironically, Ben without a high need for attention.
right, there you go. He doesn't mind in the least, I'm sure. But yeah, so this is a fun time. Summer has kicked off, as we've mentioned in recent weeks, but it's been a busy. I think last week I did say I had some goods and some busies, and some of that busyness wrapped up this past week for me. We've been talking about the Patty's Longest Day disc golf tournament, and man, oh man, was it fun and successful. Yeah.
Good day.
Right?
Really came together well.
Yeah, thank you guys for being there and for all of your assistance and the time and stuff that was put into it. And I really think, who knows? Somebody could have left going, oh, that was really horrible.
Yeah, but I've been to other tournaments, like the first Vets for Vets tournament we did. The guy that ran it made a post later that day apologizing profusely for errors that he had made and the numerous complaints that he had received, and you didn't get any.
Okay, yeah, no.
Or else maybe you just didn't make a post about it.
No, I did not. I didn't get any complaints. No, I thought it ran really smoothly. The biggest issue, so that whole day was positive. The days since have been a little bit annoying in that because it was a PDGA sanctioned event, I had to report scores and financial information and stuff, and it wasn't intuitive the way that I thought it would be. You guys know, especially Jay, just from working with the UDisc app or the Disc Golf Scene website. There's apps and websites that are all sort of linked together and help you.
There should be an upload file.
Yeah, all the information is already there. It should totally just now automatically boop go to where it needs to go, to the PDGA. But
it does not.
At least for me, it did not happen. And maybe somebody.
Did you get it done?
I just this evening finally figured out you know what, I can't. So I entered a lot manually.
Well,
but
I celebrate the fact that you got it done. It's off your
to-do
list.
And we had 32 players and not 132, so that
would have been longer.
Yeah.
4 times as much.
So that was real good. And you know what? Got it done just in time for vacation. We're heading out to Ocracoke. Heard
of it?
By way of Titusville.
Titusville of the South.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's just all really good right now. Really good.
Man, that's awesome. I had you guys survived. We should be celebrating that.
Who survived?
All of you.
Survived what?
Podcast without me. 160 podcasts.
That's right.
Excuse me, 159.
Yeah.
And I was on every one of them.
Yeah.
Until last week when I took my lovely bride out to great Lisbon, Ohio, in a tiny cabin, a getaway property. And it was great. And we had a great time. This time, last week, I was cooking 2 steaks on an open fire because the one restaurant had closed because their kitchen was 125 degrees.
Well, it was also about 120 around the fire last.
At least,
Yeah.
at least. But man, those are some good steaks, and it was just a great time. And I'm excited to be back. Excited about the podcast tonight. Busy week, and it's a highly variable week. Like I had a guy call me. He's like, "Oh, I met you 20 years ago, and there's somebody in your town who needs help, and I can't help them, but I'll help pay if you need help with that. But I'm on the other side of town, so if you could just intervene on behalf of the community." Or, if you could go to the municipality and talk to them on their behalf and blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
Wow.
I got a few people I could call, but whatever. Then he called me today. Hey, is there any update? And I'm like, okay, look.
Yeah.
Like, you're not on the other side of the world. Like, you're on the other side of the city. Your phone works real well from there. But somebody stepped up to help me with that situation. But it's been that kind of week where you just get the most random of requests for your time. But I will still make it to the beach, and I will still sit and gaze at the ocean, and I will exhale.
I have to celebrate, you're in Rachel's time away. And I hope you weren't worried about what we were doing last Wednesday night.
We were listening.
Oh, were you really?
They were on.
We were.
I didn't even see that.
Making comments.
That is amazing.
We were. We commented. We didn't finish the podcast.
How come
the steaks were done. I mean,
Well, I will say that what we missed, and we did miss you, from my perspective, was number one, of course, your professionalism with regard to we've learned a lot in the realm of relational needs, but we are not you. But the second thing is we had a couple of pregnant pauses. There were just a couple, not too many, but there were a couple times where I was like, man, Jay would have just filled this.
We could use a segue right now.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be great if there's a real long pause right now.
Well, for me, it was. I was reading Ethan, and it was like, is he done with his thought? A couple times, because I wanted to give him the space to be able to finish his thought if necessary.
Right.
But then I realized, okay, he's done
there's
with
no
his
more thoughts. Actually,
that was the period of the sentence.
That was it.
Yeah. So I've been doing a ton of writing.
Yeah.
Really over the past. Really this year, I've probably written more this year, and I love to write. I've written a book, and in the past, but I love to write. I've always journaled, and but for a long time, I haven't been doing it a lot, especially over the past couple years. And I think that the past couple of years, and where I've gone spiritually in some degrees, emotionally in some degrees, reflects the fact that I wasn't doing a lot of writing. So for me, writing is really, really important, and a lot of it is just to myself. It's journaling, but it's incredibly necessary for me. But this past couple months has been there's so many things coming out of me right now that I'm really excited about and that are necessary, and so a lot of writing, and it's been really healthy for me.
And over different topics as well. Like a lot of it's introspective.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's outrospective.
Right, my Substack. I mean, I haven't written on the Substack for probably about a month now, and I need to get back to that because there's been a lot.
Yeah, but you've been doing a lot of introspection.
A lot of it, and it's
that
been
can
really
cloud
healthy.
your. Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear you say that it's causational, that it has caused a lot of, because I haven't written, I've gotten too much in my head and everything else. That's interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is. I've been going to chiropractor since I was 12 years old, and there's a lot of things that you can do, and just like you change your oil in your car, there's preventative maintenance, and I feel like for me, writing is a preventative maintenance kind of a thing, and I just wasn't doing that preventative maintenance on myself for a while. So,
and it's been an easy couple of years.
Yeah,
nothing going on to write about.
Been able to just work everything out in my head.
Yeah.
But I've started this exercise. I'm reading this book called The Artist's Way, and I started this exercise where I'm doing something every morning called the morning pages, and it's just write 3 pages. Just when you wake up, just write 3 pages. No punctuation, no formatting.
Yes.
Just get it.
Not
out.
allowed?
Well, encouraged.
Okay.
Like I still go back. I'm like, I can't leave it like that. But no, I mean, if you want to put punctuation, it's great. But the point is, just don't get hung up on. Don't go back and read what you've written 2 paragraphs before. Just get it out. Just get it out. And you're supposed to take maybe a half an hour on it at the most. And so that's been really, really good. And I think it's probably because it's earlier. Or it's getting light out earlier, and now I guess it's going to be getting darker because we're over the hill. It's all
Summer's
downhill
over
from now. Summer's over. But like I've been waking up at 6 o'clock, and I'll lay there for a couple minutes and then get up, and then I'm like, all right, I'm getting out of bed, and I've been going. So, just really healthy and in a good way. Healthy is good, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want to be healthy in a bad way.
I don't know how that works, but so yeah.
No, that's awesome, and I almost envy that. That being up in the early morning hours to write and then start your day fresh and uncramped, it sort of like helps your brain relax.
Yeah, and it's a nice wake up because it's not like I'm being forced to get up. There's no alarm, and there's not like a grogginess to. I mean, groggy. It takes you a little bit to get going, regardless. But I'm waking up, and I'm not like just struggling to be like I gotta get going. I've been waking up kind of with hitting the ground running. Take a dip in the pool, and it's been really great.
Dip then right then dip.
Either or.
Oh, you crazy!
Like, there's been a couple times where I've taken the laptop,
chaos.
Taken the laptop out to the pool, and yeah.
No order, no punctuation. I'm not into that, but I'm glad you are. I
He
celebrate
swims,
that with you.
He swims while he types. Sometimes.
I do.
Yeah.
My laptop didn't make it that one time.
And when he gets done, he says, "Period."
Hey, I have to chime in one other thing real quick because we were talking about it before we hit the record button tonight. Brian, you asked, "What about the Tesla?" And I'm going back to bring it up just because it's been a sort of an ongoing topic on pod.
You have a Tesla?
You're right. Our Tesla has been in 2 accidents lately. One very minor.
The one in the front,
yeah. A couple months ago, it was backed into by a truck with a tow hitch that just put like a square-shaped like puncture in the front bumper. So very cosmetic, That is not what happened last week. We were picking Lily up from her theater camp Friday evening, and we're at a red light, and the driver behind us did not, for whatever reason.
Did you even get a screech?
There was nothing. There were no brakes.
Oh, that's the grossest noise.
It was just bam right into the back of us, smashed up the entire back of the car. Thankfully, no injuries, but yeah, poor Tessie's out of commission for a while. So,
but they didn't total it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was still somewhat drivable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't dangerous. We pulled off and into a parking lot for a while, and then later we actually drove it to a body shop. I didn't want to drive it long distance because it was like the trunk was stuck open, and it was like,
It's a good thing they didn't hit the gas tank. You could have exploded.
Exactly.
That was close.
Well, you know what? We were worried
Good thing
about.
it didn't catch on fire.
We were worried about the battery for a
Yeah.
little bit because
That's where it is in the back, right?
it's actually on the bottom. It's like a long, if you imagine like a long cell phone shaped battery, like a rectangle, just along the bottom of the car.
Huh.
Yeah. But no, although there were some fumes coming out. So we were like, what is this? What is this? But it went away, and the cops who were there said, like, it could be just like sometimes when like lights get punctured, like bulbs, like there's some fumes and things. So that could have just been in the first couple minutes.
Well, we were all heartbroken.
Yeah, that sucks.
And
man.
scared. Like, I hate that.
It was a scary moment.
Total
And I can't believe your
blind
necks
side.
are all okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's a big rear end.
Yeah. And
Ding.
both
Yeah.
kids in the back seat. Yeah. Like just.
Right.
You got hit hard in the back.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Ben, how are you? How have you been?
I'm good. I've had a.
It'd be so great if he was like, I was in an accident this weekend. Let me tell you about it.
He was.
I mean, yeah. It's from the front of the car. It looked great, but from the back, no.
No bueno.
No, not good. But yeah, I've been door dashing lately, so it's been good because I get to be sort of like my own boss. That's what they say.
That's what they
Staff
say.
meetings are pretty short.
Right.
I'm doing great.
Good job, Ben. Thanks, Ben. But it's been good. The only bad thing about it is that there's sort of, it can be hard to get yourself motivated to work sometimes when you're not like conforming to a schedule. So
I encourage you to wake up first thing, write 2 to 3 pages.
oh,
Take a dip in Brian's pool. DoorDash.
okay. Yeah.
There is a little lack of motivation as Dad chimes in here, but good thing you have your mother and I to say, hey, you know what? Get at and DoorDash.
Right? It's true. I think just having a little bit more of a schedule could really help me.
You could create one.
Right?
You're the kind of guy that's like, yeah, that's just paper.
Right. I know. I have a hard time committing. I don't know. It's just something I have to work on. It's a personal flaw.
Do you ever have to do? No, it's an opportunity to improve. That's all it is. Do you ever? Are there any like hard customers that complain no matter what, or?
Not yet. I mean, the social interaction is very low, which is another reason I enjoy it a little more.
Speaking of attention.
Yeah. But no. I would definitely recommend it for anyone looking for a new gig that's quick and easy. But besides that, I've just had a lot of good encounters with people this week. I went to Aldi, and just everyone was very friendly, and we had a really good worship practice.
Not at Aldi.
No. this was all yesterday, by the way. So I had to run to Aldi when I wasn't expecting to, but I just had a really good experience with several people, and we had a really good worship practice at the church with some people who were new or newer, who aren't there all the time, who did a really nice job and were very prepared. So we appreciated that.
That's great, man. And I'm so glad that you're here and you're giving Eric the flexibility to get some things done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nice way for you to support him. And I would like to encourage you as you go through your efforts tonight, because you're really one of us. So those are all examples of emotional needs. And if you go to our relational needs, to our website, lunchtimeinrome.com, and you can take the relational needs questionnaire on our drop-down menu, and you'll get your results in a day or so. You find out what your top emotional needs are. And what we've been doing about one a month is taking a real big, deep dive into each individual emotional need / relational need, so that we can really understand what it is and how we can meet that need in somebody else, how we can get that need met for ourselves. And it really helps, because too often we just don't understand why somebody is the way they are and what to do about it, or why we are the way we are. And this week we're looking at the emotional need of attention. It is very unique in the realm of emotional needs. And the reason why I say that, when I meet with couples before they're getting married in our pre-marriage teaching, I always describe attention as the black sheep of the emotional needs family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a need for attention, everybody is, oh gosh, oh that one, oh they're always needing attention. Oh, they're doing
what's the
attention
term?
seeking.
Attention whore.
Wow.
Well, I mean that's the
but
term.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. People say, they're an attention whore.
Then what a negative connotation that is.
Yeah, nobody's ever like,
a belonging whore.
Or nobody ever says, oh, you called me a whore. Thanks, great. Like, no.
Oh, that person needs so much comfort.
Yes.
Comfort whore.
They do say, yeah, nobody says a comfort whore. They say they need a lot of comfort. And so we're looking at attention. Quite simply, it is conveying appropriate interest, concern, and care, taking thought of another, entering another's world. And that is the end of that, I think, is a almost gross overgeneralization of it, entering another's world. But that can be a wave. That's entering somebody's world. Good deal. That could be asking somebody, how was your day? That could be asking them a ton of questions about themselves, or watching them tell a story. There's a whole lot that goes into that.
But that's such an interesting part of attention, because that is an external thing. You're returning something, where when you first think of attention, like most people think you're the person sucking up all the energy in the room. But man, that's really cool to see that part of attention being you're entering someone else's world.
Yeah, and that's what we only see when you say somebody is, demonstrating attention-seeking behavior, attention whore. That is what we will get to, which is the end result of having that need not met.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody just, paid a little bit more. And you think about our world today. Nobody, I said it on Sunday, that very few people live outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That we're all just living for ourselves, trying to get, and we've had a rough couple years of it, trying to get by, trying to get hours. And so imagine, that's hard for anybody. Well, imagine somebody who needs a little bit more attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that ain't happening.
Right.
Nobody's investing in you.
I have to say this too, like in my, speaking of just thinking for myself, I guess, but this is, you know, in the past when I wasn't really thinking about what anybody else needed. Man, these are the people that I avoided. Like, please, I could not, and maybe still cannot, I don't know, have too many high attention needing,
Seeking.
yes, people in my life. Because it does draw a lot of energy.
Oh, it
it's
saps the energy right out of you.
It's hard.
Yep.
It's very difficult. So I like one or two. That's max, man. Or yeah.
So what we always do is we look at what's the root cause of it. And if you've been with us, if you've checked out so far the other emotional needs that we've done, you'll find it's exactly the same. It's the same for every emotional need. You have a high need if it was met constantly as a child, or you might have a high need because it was not met as a child. So imagine you're growing up and you're mommy and daddy's little boy. And
I was.
yeah. Okay. Like, don't make a joke. And everything you do, you are doted on, and then no matter what, and everything else, you know, that can go one of two ways. You can be like, well, that's the way life is. I am always the center of it. You know, and imagine you go, and you first get friends, and they're like, yeah, I don't really care that you put on your own socks today, Chris. That's a big deal. Who cares? And you're like, no, I'm a big boy. And they're like, we're all big boys, Chris. And you're like, well, this is weird. Or, you know, you're raised that way, and you're like, gosh, not one more person. Please, not one more person pay attention to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so with any emotional need, there's really no rhyme or reason. There's no guarantee that you have it because you got it or didn't get it. You know, you can just as easily have it or not have it, but it's all based on the way you were raised.
I've been thinking this through past episodes, you know, a little, like it's been germinating in my brain, and I think it finally, as you were reading it here, Jay, like it all, you know, there's the whole nature versus nurture idea of, you know, how we learn and how we grow intellectually. I feel like this is very nature, like the fact that, like you could have it or not have it, and your reaction to it is based on nature, just like how you were born.
That is a very interesting thought, because before you said that, I would have argued that it's all nurture.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to.
But you're saying is the same, you know, two people could be raised the exact same way. One ends up with the need, the other ends up with very little need for it.
Well, that's
so therefore, it isn't the way they were raised. It's their nature. Here's what I'll tell you. It doesn't matter as it pertains to what do you do about it.
Exactly.
But that's more, I think, brain talk but I mean, that is an interesting way to look at it.
So I'm going to start a spin-off podcast called
Brain Talk.
Relational Needs Brain Talk.
Yeah, that's something you should look into. I will give that as much attention as it desires. We talked already about how it is different. By the way, these notes will be on our website so that you'll have this outline to reference after the podcast if you ever need to look at it whenever you're like, oh, what did they say?
Yeah.
But how is it not, you know, how's it different? Because you're the black sheep. Maybe we should add in there in the notes, like attention whore.
Oh, okay.
Next to that. So
right.
they'll have to change the outline then. It's not just a dash. It'll now be 0.3 sub A black sheep. Sub B.
Jay is good at
Attention
outlines.
whore.
Oh, you cannot be leaving just A out there.
Well, I think no, you can't.
No.
No.
You could in the morning.
Oh, in the morning you can do anything you want.
It's the Wild West.
It is just freedom, baby.
But how do we meet somebody's need for attention? What are some examples? I might say that being the focal point of a room or interaction.
Sure.
You know, that's somebody, and think of it also in the opposite. Somebody who doesn't want attention, boy, when they walk in the room, they do not want everyone to be like, hey, there they are. Or, how was your day today? Like, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Right. Don't ask me that in front of all these people. What's going on?
Exactly. Another one is being engaged within a relationship. Now, that seems simple, but it's very complex.
Wait, before we go on.
Yes.
So that first one, being the focal point, now that's what would fill their need. How, as another person, and just tell me if I'm getting too far ahead.
You are.
I'm going to save this question for later.
Being engaged within a relationship, asking questions, engaging in activities, being pursued, these things, I didn't realize until about 2 months ago how much, like just like with affection, just like with appreciation, I'm seeing this whole thing with new eyes. And I was just discussing with myself how I love to be pursued. And the fact that comes to attention, the fact that that's what attention, that's how you get that fulfilled, it's really a revelation to me.
Because had I said to you 2 months ago, do you have a high need for attention?
I would have said, I like attention, but I don't
need attention.
Need it, but especially.
But do you need to be pursued?
Yes, very much. And after everything I've been working through the past couple months, yes, attention is very much something, and I know the roots of it. I know where it started and where that hurt was to cause this high need for attention that I have.
Okay. I was going to pause and say, it's having a high need is not always out of a hurt.
This one was very
but
much
this
out
one
of a
was.
hurt.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's not,
much.
doesn't mean it wasn't either. But, we want to take this a little bit slow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, because it's a great illustration and a great application of it. But being engaged within a relationship. Now, again, that's not necessarily a romantic relationship. That can be a family relationship, parent to child, child to parent. I've known way too many parents who needed so much attention from their kids and weren't getting it.
The parents need attention from the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we see that a lot, the opposite, that the kids need attention from their parents.
Don't pay attention to them at all. Yeah.
Well, speaking of specific relationships, I'll go romantic, but it could be, I guess, any specific relationship. I do not consider myself, high in need of attention, but within a relationship, like if you're not an attention, if that's not one of your highest needs, could it still be a high need within a specific relationship?
Well, certainly to a degree, I would say it could, but like we do with each one of these deep dive emotional needs podcasts, I would say what you are saying you need in regards to attention within a romantic relationship, if we want to watch, Ben throw up here for a second, might be a different emotional need that you're looking for.
Okay.
So whereas like the first one is asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it. If you have a high need for attention, you come home and you say to your spouse, "How was your day today?" And they go, "It was fine."
Yeah.
But they don't turn and say, "How was your day?"
Yeah.
Well, that's going to hurt. You need that attention. In your example, if you say, "How was your day today?" and Amy doesn't return with, "How was your day today?" It may not be attention. It might be respect.
Right.
Because, wait, I asked you a question. You're not going to ask me a question? Am I here just to serve you? You're not here to serve me?
Right.
Or it could be, don't you care that I'm this way or that way? And that's just only in regards to asking questions.
The asking questions thing that we're talking about is so fascinating to me because I thrive on questions. I love to ask questions of people. Like, that's one of the first things I start to do when I get to know somebody is I'll ask questions and then I want questions to be asked of me. And I'd never really connected that with the need for attention, but really what it is you're fishing. You're almost, it's almost like fly fishing. You're throwing out the lure, bringing it back.
The fishing, what you're saying, the fishing is you ask the question they ask the question?
Well, I'm just saying, like, in general, it's the process. Like, it's the process of staying engaged so that I can continue to have attention and so that I can continue to give attention because it's such a high need of mine. Like, it's blowing my mind right now.
In essence, you're saying yes.
Yes.
I ask questions because I want them to ask because I like this dance.
I love the dance because it keeps the attention
going all the way back to the top, entering another's world. You want someone to value your world and take notice of it.
And I want to value another person's world and take
absolutely,
notice of
because
it too.
why? We give what we desire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just because of that, but it's, hey, I value attention, so I'm going to give that to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why if you come across somebody with no need for attention, it's like a terrible song.
Right.
You know, forget the dance. It's like ska meets bad jazz. And you're just sitting there going, well, this is awkward.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happens next.
Mhm.
And you're asking questions and they're giving you one word answers and not asking you a question back. And you're like, well, I feel gross right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave. And they're like,
Right.
I hate that guy. Secondly, engaging in activities. You know, you want to be doing something with somebody. You want to have that, for lack of a better term, that life dance
Mhm.
of, hey, we're doing things together. We're not just living independently. If you have a high need for attention from your boss, again, another relationship, significant. If he's never asking or she's never asking you any questions, you're like, oh, they're not paying any attention to me. If they never include you in any projects,
Mhm.
you're like, oh boy, I don't even know if I exist.
Could that be a little bit of respect too? That
Oh,
they-
absolutely. 100%. Belonging, respect, support.
Mhm.
But if you have a high need for attention and your boss never asks you to be in a project,
Mhm.
that's where it hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
This is interesting to me because you have a very high need for attention,
Yes.
and you're always asking us to go disc golfing. You love to disc golf. We
Sure.
love to disc golf, but I feel like that's one of those things where that's how you can also have that need met. You're saying engaging in activities.
Well, sure. Like I certainly don't want to go disc golfing by myself.
Right.
But as you're saying that, it makes me think, because I also go, I'm going to feel bad if I don't invite them because I
Mhm.
go to guilt.
Mm.
So I was like, where's more of that? Or do I feel bad that I'm not giving them attention?
But
or am I not giving them belonging? Good.
But you benefit, I think this is Brian's point, you benefit from going disc golfing in a social setting like that. That feeds your
There is
your
a healthy
need,
attention that
Yeah.
comes to you.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's,
Especially because you're
if-
really good.
if
and
you, I'm good. I'm not really good. But if you
Stop.
if you wanted to, well, Saturday could have shown you that. The guy who won beat me by 14
Okay.
or 12 strokes.
Okay.
That's very good.
You beat me anyways.
Yeah. But here's my point. If you wanted to give an example of how do I demonstrate my attention-seeking behavior, asking people to disc golf is one, but it's what happens when we disc golf and what happens anytime I am with anybody. And Ben's nodding a crap on his
He's
head over
like-
there. Ben's like, oh, you don't need to tell me, Jay. And I will be nice to you right now and not tell you to finish my sentence unless
Okay.
you want to.
Nope.
I think Ben's just a nodder. He's an encouraging
I'm
nodder.
just agreeing. I'm fulfilling your need for encouragement.
Yeah, right, we're talking about attention, which is a good thing. You don't have a high need for acceptance or respect. But the point of the story is this: what do? I tell you stories.
Mhm.
I tell you stories about my day.
Yep.
I tell you something that happened the last time I was on this hole. And there's times like you should be in my head. I'm like, shut up! Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you threw on this hole last time. You don't care what anybody else threw on this hole. So that's how it manifests with me. Is I want to engage with you and hear. You know, even if it's not something, if it's something I did bad, I want you to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I agree with. I'll think more about the
Yeah.
is the ask the showing the need for attention or is it not?
And then being pursued.
Ooh,
Yeah.
being pursued. What does that mean, Brian?
So, to me, it means somebody showing that they value you enough to actively come after you, after your heart, to get to know you more, to really want to understand you, to enter your world willingly. And and like, to me, there's not much. So let me use this example. When I really started to have again, not a Christian podcast, when I really started to engage my relationship with God back in the late 90s to early 2000s, I felt, and I always use this term, I felt God wooing me back to him. He came after me in a very loving yet persistent way. He pursued me. And I use that as the template for so many of the other relationships in my life that I value. And it is that pursuit that like I just said, all the other things that I just said.
And it's we talk about entering somebody's world. Well, when we say being pursued, it's the intent to enter somebody's world.
Yeah.
You know, you said pursue their heart. Well, boy, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just pursue my afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pursue my stories.
Mm-hmm.
does anybody care that I even exist?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that thing when somebody's depressed
Mm.
and you like, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would anybody
who would
notice?
even know?
Who would notice
Right.
I wasn't here? And it's something as simple as 3 months ago, Brian mentioned to me, hey, when you go to Penn Mac down on the strip to buy food for the vacation, I think I want to go with you this year. I've never been there. And the other day I said, hey, are you still good for Penn Mac? Well, that's a simple pursuit, but hey, I heard something that you wanted to do, and I want to make sure that we do that together.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, that's a simple way to do it. If he didn't have a high need for attention, he'd be like, what? Did I say that? Oh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if nobody's ever asking you, think about it. If you had a high need for attention
I actually did forget.
and nobody ever checks in with you,
Yeah.
nobody ever asks how your day was, nobody
Yeah.
says, how are you feeling?
You're invisible.
Man, it's I would say deafening, but it's such a heavy weight.
Yeah.
And, you know, being open and honest and vulnerable with somebody else's feelings or emotions. You know, my relationship with Rachel, she has some need for attention in some ways, but
Mhm.
not compared to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I will say to her, hey, honey, how was your day? And she'll be like, it was good. And I'm like, now's when you would say, how was your day? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, how was your day? And it's, you know, I have to get to that point with her where I'll just have to say to her, hey, look, that's what I need, and I
Mhm.
need you to engage back. And that covers both. That's the, you know, asking questions, being engaged, and being pursued.
But does it feel empty to you if you
No.
are? It doesn't.
It would feel better.
If it wasn't forced.
Right. And
Or-
it's not,
or-
by the way, to be very clear,
forced.
not that she ever listens, speaking of attention, but it's not that she never does it.
Sure.
Because once again, I've got a high need for it.
Yeah.
So she is very good about that. She'll ask me, you know, and again, she's good at it because we've worked at it.
Sure.
You know, here's a prime example. When we were first dating, and mind you, at this point, I know squadouche about emotional needs. I don't know anything. And I know I've told you two guys, Ben, you don't know this, and I've never done it live on YouTube. I was really mad that she wasn't engaging with me. And we were at an Eaton Park on McKnight Road. And I said, that's it. I am not going to speak another word until she begins a new conversation. And we sat there for 45 minutes. And at this point, the cook came over and cooked an egg right on my forehead because I was so mad. And the beauty of the story is she didn't even know.
Right. Everything was copacetic.
She's fine. Just eating at Eaton Park, hanging out. I'm just exploding. So we've gotten from that to every once in a while I have to remind her.
Right.
Yeah.
Have
That's
you,
healthy.
Have you got, like, sometimes on social media, I'll see posts and it's like, stop texting first, stop reaching out, and see when they reach out to you. And oftentimes they never will, like, see who will actually reach back to you. And for them, I'm sure they take it as, like, that's a fake friend. Like, that's not a real friend who cares about you. But I think a lot of the time, like, for me, I have a very low need for attention. So that's not even on my radar, like, that I
Like you'll
need
just
to
stop.
be.
You'll just stop texting.
Right. Like, I don't necessarily want people constantly, like, texting me, like,
Right.
asking to hang out. So, like, and I don't mind it, but it's not something I need. I'm starting to realize during the session that I have a pretty low need for attention. Like, I'm not relating to a lot of this conversation.
He's like, you guys are kind of pathetic, you and Brian. I'm thinking more
Really
highly
needy.
of my dad tonight, as a matter of fact.
But so I think that's a great place where people are implying that pursuit is, to them, part of friendship. Like, that is intertwined
For
with it.
them.
For them, right? But I think they might even think that what I'm thinking is that's part of friendship overall for them, because they're saying you're a fake friend because you're not reaching out and pursuing me. To me, that's not something I would even think about. So,
Right.
yeah.
But here's the point. Say you've got a friend like that. Now it's important for you to say, I need to reach out to them.
Right.
Right. It's not
The
my
solution.
instinct. Like, I wouldn't encourage somebody to do that for the very reason of what you said, because you wouldn't reach out because it doesn't think you're not thinking of that. You know, some of back to Rachel, some of Rachel's best friends, and I mean for 30 years, she may not talk to for a month, 2 months. Yet the minute anything happens, they're there, guns drawn, sometimes literally, you know, and they're there. They are sisters for life. They don't reach out to each other, maybe every once in a while. And so if she said, "Oh, I'm not going to reach out," well, then you may not hear from them for a few months
Yeah.
until somebody needs you. Well, they're still great friends. Now, if one of them needs attention, okay, we got to reach out to them every once in a while. That's a great input on that. The last one I put was responding to conversation starters with actual conversation.
It's so great.
I always do it.
Why is that so great?
Because I think that if you start a conversation, well, I think we did a couple examples. If you start a conversation and someone gives you a 1 or 2 word answer that basically does not enable an easy follow-up, it's almost like they've just chopped the conversation before it's even gotten started.
It doesn't work with me. I
Right.
make it happen.
You're the question guy.
Right. So it's engaging back. If it's obvious a conversation starter, starting a conversation, not answering a question.
Right.
Now, the reason why, well, let's go for
Well,
here.
and so I have to say this too. This tags on to that last point about conversations, but also tags on to what Ben was saying. And I think, he's talking about his low need for attention. And I'm going to go a step further and say I don't just have a low need for attention. I have a
Negative need.
yes, like attention.
Deficit.
Yes, I have not even I shy
Repulsion.
away from. Yes, that's the word. I have an attention repulsion. So when people ask too many questions or give too much attention to me, like what I'd like to get better at is saying, how can I help meet their need? Because my habitual response over my lifetime has been, I'm going into a shell. Like, I'm going to talk even less. I'm going to shy away. I'm going to I don't want to get into this conversation with somebody.
How are you friends with Jay and I? Well, both of us are.
Well, there's a balance.
Yeah.
No, because he listens to my stories.
I do. I want to respond better too.
But it's just more about listening for you and not having to work to meet his level of energy for attention. That's when you go into the shell.
Yes. Well, and it's different because we're such close friends now.
Oh, but you'd also go into a shell if I asked you 75 questions about your life.
Yes.
Like you're saying, he doesn't mind focusing on me.
It's
Okay.
much
You want
easier.
me to focus on him.
Correct.
And for all due respect, I think we all have a relatively satiated and mature understanding of how to have our needs met. So it isn't like what he tries to avoid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gotcha.
Because we like to look at, hey, how is this need not met? Number one, by not giving attention. Boy, that's some rocket science. Somebody needs attention, you don't give it. But then what happens is, and we've already referenced it, you just avoid the person altogether.
That's what I've done through my life. Yeah. It's terrible. It's not healthy.
I do it too, even though I am high on attention. There's certain people I'm like, nope, goodbye.
Not today.
I'm out.
I mean, we've all looked at our phone and went, no, not that person. Nope,
Right.
don't have time for them today.
Right.
And when they walk in the room, everybody's like, scatter. So it's very natural, but it's very natural.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that in a few. We'll get to that now. When emotional needs are not met, we as one who needs it, no matter what the emotional need is, you steal it. And it's dysfunctional. It doesn't work. The person that wants a hug goes up and grabs their spouse and gives them a big bear hug, and it doesn't work. But that is exactly what we do. We steal it. Well, how do we steal attention? And I'm passionate about this. We exponentially increase attention-seeking behavior.
Yeah.
So you're in a room and you're telling a story and people aren't listening. So you tell another story. So you tell a story a little bit louder. So you start making gestures and you start making noises and you start doing whatever you can to draw that attention. It's the prime example is like if you think of like a high school kid. There was a kid who used to come to Young Life Club and he was like this mascot at a local youth group. Young Life Club is normally filled with kids who don't go to churches, but this kid, he was sort of the mascot of the youth group. They just made fun of him, whatever else. And he would go because he got attention. And he would make the Chewbacca noise. And somebody once in his life paid attention to him when he made that Chewbacca noise. And I would sit there. And I would watch him. And he'd be looking around the room. And he would try to start a conversation. And people would be like, no. And then he would make the Chewbacca noise. And then he would do it again. and do it again. And it's literally like you're watching a person drown.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the water and you can't swim, you start flailing around a little bit, but then you go under and you flail a little bit more, and you flail a little bit more. We've all seen that person.
Yeah.
They grab at any attention they can get, and what they're teaching you is don't pay attention to me,
Right.
because I'm going to take you down.
It's repellent.
You're going to drown with me.
That's what I was just gonna say. I'm gonna be the attention person today, because that on the opposite end of that, it feels like you're drowning as well. Because when someone just keeps coming at you, you're like, oh God, and you start flailing for how do I get out of this? Like, how do I survive it? How do I not feel...
the only thing going in your head is, why isn't my phone ringing? Okay, I gotta go. No, that's too obvious. My wife, no, she's in this room with me.
But it can be literally painful to have to respond to too much stuff. Like, and that's part of all this too, is like, we talk a lot about like, what if someone needs it? What if someone is like the opposite end of the spectrum? Like, how do you respect that as well? Like, it's good to know if someone is really negative on attention, for example.
What, in fact, do you do about that? We're going to get to that in just a few seconds.
I love it.
Another way that we steal it is we ask questions to somebody else, then we don't really care about their answer. We're dying for them to ask us. To ask us.
That's a classic give what you would like to receive, right?
Yeah, but it's also guided, because I'm hugging. Yeah, it is. I guess maybe. I think that's not maybe, it is. But, if you're dying for someone to say, if you have a story to tell and you have a high need for attention and it was at work today, but you just can't, you're already conditioned enough. You're an adult. You just can't roll into a room and start talking about your day, and you want to be engaged. So you say, well, how was your day today? How was your work today?
Anything interesting happen to you at work?
And then they start to answer, and you go, well, let me tell you about my work day today. And so once again, that conditions the other person. Get out of that conversation, because they're just going to ram
it's not
their
about
story.
They don't care about me. They just care about themselves.
Right. Now, again, when they walked in the door, had that person said to the high needed for attention person, hey, how was your day today? The story might go a lot less. But because it's building up and building up and building up, they've got to steal it. So they start asking questions that are similar to what they want to have asked back to them.
Dominating conversations and interactions.
I mean, that's just obvious. That's that attention-seeking behavior.
As we're going through this, like, I have Will Ferrell and Chris Farley pop into my mind. Like, as I'm reading through this, it's just like, I wonder if they really are high need on, like, those people.
Do you mean them not in their roles, but as human beings?
No, maybe both, or like Robin Williams. Like, it just seems like you talk about a drowning person. It's like any interview Robin Williams gave. It's like he's just now, is that attention? Is that whatever? I don't know, but it's just like that's to me the picture that pops into my mind when you are talking about what a typical person who doesn't handle the need for attention properly looks like. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So like the dominating conversations, interactions, I mean, they're up on the table, taking their shirts off and stuff. That's my picture.
That would be an extreme example of that.
Yes.
That's one of the ones that's a constant battle for me, is this one.
Getting up on tables and taking your shirt off?
No, the simple example, not the extreme example. But I have to tell myself, like, let other people talk. Let other people tell their story. Nobody cares. Maybe they care, but they don't care that much. Let their story be told. Chris doesn't want to talk. Okay, now it's my turn to talk. Steering conversations, interactions into areas one would like attention. I think the simplest example of this would almost be from Friends, when Joey got the encyclopedia, but he only got the letter V. And they're like, what about Vietnam? They're like, oh, that's bad. But I saw this documentary on Korea. And he was like, whoa, Korea. I don't know. But how about that Mount Vesuvius, huh? Well, if you apply that to somebody's story, not just a letter, you see it and you can watch it happen. And sometimes it's, I can sit back, as I now like to observe. I've always liked to observe people. I just am more equipped to do it now. And you watch that person with a high need for attention try to steer it back to their favorite TV show, to their favorite sport. And they can't engage in your world because they're desperate and at a deficit for people entering their world.
Yep.
The last one, when our emotional need for attention is not met,
Get it elsewhere.
get it elsewhere. Go ahead.
Socially.
Certainly. I mean, that's like, okay, my friend group doesn't, care what I do. They don't give me any attention. I get new friends.
Or I'm going to go onto Instagram and become an influencer.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that's I guess we could have broken that down
Social
to in person and in social media.
Yeah.
But then also romantically. We go back to, if you're not being pursued, think about the number of marriages that have, the book that I read years ago was Wild at Heart. And
The
it
one
said,
book.
Yeah, that every man has a battle to fight, a journey to go on, and a beauty to rescue. And the point that he makes in that is, just because you got married doesn't mean you rescued your beauty. You've got to continually pursue her.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so many relationships, people stop pursuing their significant other. And that's when, they pursue somebody else. But let's get to what everybody's been listening for. Everybody's tuning in to hear. And that's why we started at the old 50-minute mark.
Giving us plenty of time.
How do you manage somebody who has a high need for attention?
I love the word manage.
Yeah. You got to do something. Might as well manage.
How to best meet their needs, how to love someone. Maybe I
There
could
you
have
go.
done that. Love someone, keep them from feeling alone, meet their needs. Let's be honest. What you want to know is, how do I manage somebody with a high need?
So how do you do that with people that you know well?
It's quite simple to begin with. You intentionally give them attention. So when they walk in the door, you say, "How was your day?"
Right.
You get ahead of it. It's like and again, that's similar to every emotional need. Get ahead of it. Don't operate from a position of a deficit. You want to get to them ahead of time and tell them that you value them, and you can even tell them that you're doing it. Like, hey, I really value you, and I really want to hear your stories, and I'm going to ask you every day. Tell them ahead of time.
So you don't mean, I was wondering when I saw that in the outline, you don't mean, hey, this is me giving you attention. So put it in the bank, buddy.
Once again, for Mr. No Attention here.
Look at the sacrifice I'm giving you.
It is your birthday. That's what that reminded me. I am giving you attention. Isn't it wonderful?
What is it here, Dwight? My letter of not apology, but it was like, this is my letter of apology.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But no, you can say to them, no, I mean, yes, it is what you're saying. I wouldn't say it with that attitude. Sure hope baby's not listening to this. She doesn't have a high need for attention, so you're all right.
Yeah, we're good.
But what about people? Go ahead.
I was going to say, give them a cue when you notice them scrambling. What do you mean by that?
Okay,
one?
so we talked about earlier.
I know what you mean, like the brain thing.
Sure.
Or
so I'll go back to that example of the kid who made the Chewbacca noise. I would notice him scrambling. I would watch him, and I'm seeing him, and I would look at him, and I would literally, this is for people who are older, I would turn the volume down. See, now I'd have to be pressing a button, and that wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
But I would literally turn a knob in the air, just discreetly, because I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to give him negative attention.
So you would lock eyes.
And I had told him I was doing this. I would say, hey, listen, here's what's happening. Now, this is a situation where I'm a leader. He's a kid, everything else. But in a friend group or something like that, like,
it's not the guy at the bar that you just met.
Right. Well, again, this is under the category of people you know well.
Right.
Yeah, you're at the bar, guy's telling you like the fifth story in a row. You just look at him and go, hey.
Although he might get that.
And Chris is like, ooh, but if it worked.
Right.
Star Wars
I mean,
music
it's worth a
starts.
try.
Your principal at your school is just like, yammer, 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 yammer. And you're like, and then you just touch him right on the nose. But no, you can have a little cue for somebody. Like, imagine a husband and wife, Rachel and myself. If we get to a point where, I'm saying to her, honey, oh man, I've just been telling too many stories and I feel like I'm dominating conversations. Hey, can you just give me a little head nod or whatever? Now, again, that's me saying, hey, I want you to do that.
Right.
But that's something you can do to help somebody.
That's extremely helpful and proactive and I think constructive in a way that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, hopefully, and gets the job done.
Right. Could it? Sure. If I
Sure.
don't feel like I'm dominating a conversation and I'm already mad at her. But this is all assuming that we're handling our relationship well. We're communicating our needs. We have taken care of our past hurts. We're a clean slate. We can move forward. We're working together.
It's a safe way to do it.
Now, however, we don't always know people. The people that bother us the most, we don't always know well enough that we can tell them.
Yeah.
Turn
down.
and it's awkward then.
Yeah.
It's the coworker. It's the neighbor. Oh, the neighbor that always wants to chit chat. And you're like, I just don't have time. I don't have 25 minutes for you right now. The phone call out of the blue. I had somebody knock on my door the other day to visit.
Don't they know this is the 21st century?
9:15 a.m.
Wow.
Knocked on my door. I was like, what? Thank God I have a security camera. I was like, what are we doing?
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what are you, a serial killer?
This is not the 1950s.
Yeah, if I didn't have my cameras, I'd have been slinking down the stairs, looking out the window.
Yeah.
So, number one, just like anything else, give them attention. Now, everybody listening to this just went, are you crazy?
Right.
Are you crazy? That person who needs attention, you're going to give them attention. Because what's going to happen?
It's going to feel like you're stuck. You're
How are they going to respond to you?
They're going to drown.
Well, yeah, they're going to drown you
take you
with
down.
Yeah. Well, so I like that your advice then is that so you set a parameter and you say, okay, here's
perimeter,
a perimeter around your
Perimeter works.
soul.
Yeah.
So here's what it's a 3-step
You
process.
have to do it. You
It's
gotta
a
do it.
3-step process. One, and again, you can also just avoid them.
Right.
But that's not productive.
Yep.
That's not loving them. That's not keeping them from feeling alone. So you give them attention. Hey, how was your day today? How's it going? And they go, well, let me tell you. So first, and you go, hey, listen, I have 2 minutes. You set up a perimeter. People think it's boundaries. Perimeters are what you give other people. You call it a fence or a perimeter.
Right.
So you say to them, hey, you got 2 minutes, especially if you're on the phone. And you can lie, it's fine.
Right.
Be like, hey, I'm about to check out. Whatever, let's be real. I got to go do something. Yeah, I'll teach you how to do a half lie so you're not really lying,
I got to go do something.
I got to hang up the phone. That's what I got to do. I got to not talk to you. That's what's next on my list. But you just say to them, and this is important, you say, I've got 2 minutes. I've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Sure.
And then you even say to them, I got 1 minute now.
Yeah.
And you'll watch. They'll talk faster. They'll try to, and they'll even say, I know you got to go, but one more thing. No,
Yep.
I don't have time for one more thing.
Yep.
But I want to hear this story. Now you're giving them even more attention. Okay? So you have given them attention and you've set up the perimeter. Now here comes the boundary. The boundary you control. Then you say, all right, talk to you later. They can be in mid-sentence. They're still going to appreciate that you gave them that time, that you gave them that attention.
Right.
So if you think about it, if it gets to the point where you're just avoiding somebody and it's because you didn't manage it.
Yeah.
And you're not talking about ending it by screaming at them. You're just saying,
No, just being matter of fact.
Right. Like, because
They
that
can
would
be
be
in mid-sentence.
Yeah.
Hey, 10 seconds, and I got to go.
I got to go. Yeah.
When I was delivering water, I had to go to the person's house. Like,
Oh,
there
you
was
had
no
people.
way, there was
who
no
you
way
were
to
the
avoid
only
that.
person that they talked to that day.
I had so many, probably one person on a route, on every day of my route, where like the first time they blindside, like, and I wasn't getting paid by the hour. I was getting paid by how much I
Right.
By the
delivered.
ball.
You're the water guy.
Right.
Like, that's amazing to me.
And so, but like, if I didn't get out of there, like I'm not on the clock. I'm not getting paid. I want to go home. So many people, I had to be like, I got like 3 minutes. I want to hear, like, I learned how to do this because I had to, because I couldn't avoid them.
Yeah.
And if you did you can't avoid them because
Have
you
to
have
go.
to deliver
They're
the
paying
water.
for water.
That's how you get the money.
Yep.
And if you don't do it, you do go right back to above, which is you just avoid the person altogether.
Yep.
Right. And now you've accomplished nothing in loving others relationship-wise. Yeah.
Which I was going to say that, but I'll also add this. Put it into a professional or a school situation where you have to interact with this person. Okay, so now every time you go where they'll be,
Yeah.
you're stressed.
Mhm.
You're thinking,
Yeah.
I got to avoid them.
Because they're part of your world. Yeah.
Right, you can't just avoid them. So now you're going to try to avoid them. You're going to look around. You're going to feel like a bad person to some degree, or you're going to be angry. Depends on where your hurts go. You're either going to feel guilty or angry that you're avoiding them. Whereas you can say, hey, you go right up to them.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on today? I don't have a long time today. You know,
Right.
and
Or you could even say like, hey, that story you had started, yesterday, how did that turn out?
gold.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold.
That's perfect.
And then they say, oh, here's another thing. Go, nah, I don't have time for another story, but I really want to
We'll
hear the
pick
end
it
of
up
that
tomorrow.
story.
Yeah.
Trust me, somebody with a high need for attention, assuming they're not in the midst of completely drowning, having it not met at all, man, they appreciate that because
Yeah.
it's okay. And then they'll look at you and be like, wow, they care.
Right. They know that's authentic, but yet you're still protecting yourself and your energy and your boundaries. And you have to be matter of fact, and you have to have the spine to do it. Where a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's mean. I'll just go ahead and sit here and listen to this."
Right, or that's
Right.
mean, so I'll just avoid them like the
Right.
plague and talk about them behind their back.
Right.
Because that's loving them.
Yeah.
I every once in a while I'll even describe it as like I hit them with the newspaper. No, too much. It's time to move on now.
Yeah.
I don't really do that.
So when we don't receive appreciation, how are we hurt?
Well, we just mentioned hurts go 4 places, 4 categories. It either goes to anger, guilt, fear, or self-condemnation. And this manifests itself if your hurts typically go to fear, you will only end up going where you'll get attention because you're afraid to go anywhere else because nobody's going to meet my need there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm only going to go to this person all the time, which again puts too much burden on them.
I wonder how many people go to the local bar because they're avoiding the people that they don't want attention from. They're going to the bar because they know they can manage the attention because really they only have to talk to the bartender or the other people that they know that are sitting at the bar that are kind of in the exact same position.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and that illustration could work for a lot of different
Sure.
things. But yeah, for that attention, think about it. I know they'll answer me when the bartender. It's the age-old joke. They're the counselor and everything else.
And the bar is set up that way too, that you're not facing the other people. You're looking straight ahead. There's the bartender.
But that's a safe way to kind of conquer that or run from the fear of being out in the larger world where you just go find a safe space where you can manage it and you don't have to be afraid there.
Yeah, and you just stop engaging in other places because it
Mhm.
hurts too much.
Right.
And so now I'm afraid I'm not going to go anywhere new. I've been hurt by everywhere I know.
Right.
So I'm going to go to that one place or those 2 places.
Like how many people quit going to church? Anyways, that's a whole
Oh,
different
for a
story.
million reasons. Hurts go to guilt. You will feel like that feeling like one's need for attention is the reason it's not met. So like it's my fault. I have such a high need for attention. Of course nobody wants to pay attention to me.
So is this you? Isn't that where you go?
My hurts go to guilt. I get a lot of attention.
Okay.
I don't have to. I'm not. No, not really. But I can identify with that.
Okay.
You
sure.
know that. Oh, I'm always needing attention. So that's why, of course, nobody wants. I could see. It makes sense to me. Is
Yeah.
maybe the way I'd put it.
So like
But-
it's the reason, yeah. So just the reason
Just the very
that
need.
you need it, or that it's the way you're going about it.
Right. Either one of those.
Like, so you might not. So if you're very unfamiliar with relational needs, you might not even think about, this is my need for attention that is driving people away. You might think, man, I'm such a blabbermouth, or man,
Why do I have to be the center of attention, or why do I have to be funny all the time? Why am I always
Yeah.
telling stories?
Yeah.
People would pay more attention if I was just calmer about it.
right.
Self-condemnation, that is just feeling like your needs, you're not even worthy of having your needs met. And quite simply, you feel like you're not worthy of attention. That you're being treated like you're invisible because maybe you should be.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing noteworthy of you. There's
Mhm.
nothing deserving of attention. Your
Yeah.
story doesn't need to be heard. Which, once again, if we're trying to motivate you to love somebody who has a high need for attention, if they have a high need for attention and their hurts go to self-condemnation, and you're sort of loving them twice.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just giving them attention; it's giving them purpose. It's
Value.
giving them value
Mm-hmm.
and really helping a lot of harm. So it's who you are. Like, I'm not even worthy, or your story isn't worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So one is who you are, the other is what you do.
So do they then maybe go to, I better get bigger and better stories?
Well, think about it. Think about somebody who has a high need for attention. so often, don't they kind of tell not always the truth?
Sure. Sounds
And
a
they
little
embellish the story.
hyperbolic.
Why?
Bigger story, more attention.
They didn't pay attention. They
the
didn't
wow
pay attention
factor.
to the story that was true.
Right.
So now I got to tell you a story that's not true. Why? Because I don't feel that my story is worthy enough.
Mm.
My story isn't good enough to get the attention that I need. And lastly, anger. You take your ball and go home. You stop giving attention and other needs to others. You're not going to, well, why are you, Brian's laughing.
That's the way I do it.
that's your move?
That's the move. Like,
Shabba shabba.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not going to give me
goodbye.
attention?
Yep.
I'm not going to
Right.
meet your need for whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressively seeking to get it met, that's the same thing. Like, I'm going to scream until you pay attention to me. Think of it, with attention, it's like a child, the temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we learn not to pound our fists on the ground, but we'll get louder and louder
Mm-hmm.
and tell more stories and get more angry that we're not getting it met.
Yeah.
Right.
And then lastly, spitefully Brian's nodding already. Spitefully getting it met elsewhere.
Yep.
Aggressively going to the bar and talking to the bartender, or, I in my career as a pastor, I haven't dealt, sadly, with too many affairs. By the way, not personally me, but I mean people who have come to me. But boy, there's a lot of emotional ones out there.
Mm.
Where, boy, they're getting the attention. Somebody's
Right.
pursuing them.
Mm.
Somebody's meeting their need. And one eventually can very often lead to another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all because that need wasn't met. It's not they're not blameless. It's still wrong.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you, matter of fact, if your hurts go to anger, you might just spitefully get that need met somewhere else.
We've had a friend, Amy and I, that is, in our past that high need for attention. And that was back at a time we did not recognize that. It was just a person that you're like, oh my goodness, this feels like a one-sided friendship. Like, we don't get anything we need. We're constantly giving, right? And the part here, that word aggressively really stuck out to me. Aggressively seeking to get it met. I mean, I think this falls into that aggressive category when they're telling you, you're not a good friend. You have not been at this thing for me, or
It's
this
the other
thing.
end of what Ben was talking about. Like, they didn't even just stop. They're just coming at you saying,
Right.
you're not a good friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't find out.
right.
They're telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. Up front.
Because they have such a high need, and you couldn't meet.
Right. And we didn't
Wow.
know. Right. I mean, it turned into a toxic, friendship because we didn't know how to solve it, and it seemed like we were getting. I mean, maybe attacked is too strong a word, but emotionally.
Oh,
like,
I think
Yeah.
somebody tells you you're not a good
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's aggressive.
Right.
That's lobbing a grenade that you didn't ask for.
Right.
Without a education about emotional needs, I think your only real reference point is your emotional needs, and you're like, doesn't everyone have the same emotional needs as I do?
Yes. That is a.
Right. That's the only scale you're using
Right.
to measure
Mhm.
things.
Right.
Right.
So you think friendship is what other people will want what I want in friendship.
Right.
Of course, that's not true.
No, it's not true at all. So I hope people can navigate the waters of those of you who have a high need for attention. If you have questions in that regard, if you have a specific situation, feel free to send us a message. You can leave names out of it and say, how do I deal with this? I would love to walk you through that and help you navigate those awkward waters.
And with that, we're going to end episode 161. We thank you for joining us at the table. If you can, please give us a like and follow on social media. And, of course, visit lunchtimeinrome.com. We have a lot of resources there, including the Relational Needs Questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at Lunchtime in Rome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Are we off?
Yeah.
Are we
the
off the
recording.
live?
Is it recorded?
Are we off of YouTube?
No. Do you want me to do that now?
Yes.
Yeah. Bye, YouTube.
Okay, bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.